War films often promise heroism, clean victories, clear enemies. But British war cinema took a different path. It showed fear, failure, moral confusion, and the quiet cost of survival. These are not stories designed to comfort you. They are designed to confront you. 11 gritty classics that shocked American audiences by stripping away illusion and exposing the raw truth of war. And by the end, you may never see war the same way again. Number 11. Went the Day Well? 1942. It begins like a postcard. Quiet village lanes, warm sunlight, ordinary people living ordinary lives. Then something fractures, something quietly wrong. Soldiers arrive. They look British. They sound British. But they are not. They are the enemy hiding in plain sight. This film does not warn you. It lures you. It builds trust, then destroys it without mercy. What follows is not heroic warfare. It is panic. It is suspicion. It is neighbors turning on each other while death creeps through familiar streets. Civilians are not protected here. They are hunted, executed, broken. American audiences expected courage and clarity. Instead, they were handed betrayal and fear. This was invasion without warning, war without uniforms. The violence feels personal because it happens at home, not on distant battlefields, and that is what makes it unforgettable. It strips away the illusion of safety. It shows that war does not knock before entering. It simply walks in and smiles before it kills. Number 10. The Way Ahead. 1944. There are no heroes at the start, only civilians, shopkeepers, clerks, men who have never fired a weapon. They are thrown together, confused, frustrated, barely holding discipline. This is not the army people imagine. This is the army as it truly begins. Training is not inspiring, it is humiliating. Mistakes are punished. Weakness is exposed. Bonds are not instant. They are forged slowly through shared failure. The film takes its time. It forces you to sit with these men as they struggle to become something more than frightened civilians. Then comes the shift. Deployment. Real combat. The chaos is sudden. Orders break down. Fear takes over. And yet something changes. The same men who stumbled now move with purpose. Not because they became fearless, but because they learned to stand together. American audiences were stunned by its honesty. There is no myth here, no instant transformation, just gradual hardening under pressure. Even the cost is visible in every face. By the end, you realize something unsettling. War does not create heroes. It reshapes ordinary men until they survive what should have destroyed them. Number 9. 9 Men, 1943. The desert does not forgive. It does not hide you. It does not comfort you. It exposes everything. And in that endless emptiness, a small group of British soldiers find themselves trapped inside a crumbling ruin, surrounded, outnumbered, waiting. This is not a battle of movement. It is a battle of endurance. Days stretch into something unbearable. Water runs low. Ammunition becomes precious. Every decision carries weight. Every sound in the distance could mean death approaching. What makes this film so unsettling is how quickly strength begins to erode. Not just physical strength, but mental stability. The men begin to crack. Tension rises. Doubt spreads. Leadership is questioned. Survival becomes uncertain, not because of the enemy alone, but because of what is happening inside the group. American audiences were used to sweeping war spectacles, large-scale victories, clear heroes. This film offered none of that. It trapped viewers in one location and forced them to feel the pressure closing in from all sides. There is no escape, no relief, only waiting, and that waiting becomes the real enemy. By the time the final moments arrive, you understand something deeply uncomfortable. War is not always about action. Sometimes it is about being stuck, watching time run out, feeling hope slowly collapse while the desert remains silent and indifferent. Number 8. The Ship That Died of Shame, 1955. That victory does not always end the war. Sometimes it begins something worse. This story starts after the fighting is over. A small naval vessel once used for dangerous missions is now drifting through peacetime without purpose. Its crew are no longer heroes. They are men trying to adjust to a world that no longer needs what they became. At first, it feels like a simple transition. Then the tone shifts. The same skills that once served the nation begin to serve something darker, smuggling, corruption, moral compromise. Step by step, the line between duty and crime disappears. What makes this film so haunting is the idea that war changes people in ways that cannot be undone. These men are not villains in the beginning. They are veterans carrying habits that no longer belong in peace. The ship itself becomes a symbol, once proud, now tainted. And American audiences were not expecting this kind of aftermath. War films were supposed to end with victory, closure, honor. Instead, this film lingers in the consequences. It asks what happens when the war follows you home, and the answer is unsettling. Because the real conflict does not end on the battlefield. It continues quietly, inside the minds of those who survived, corroding judgment, blurring morality, turning heroes into something unrecognizable. By the end, you are left with a chilling realization. Some wars do not finish when the shooting stops. They simply change shape and wait for the next mistake. Number 7. Above Us. The Waves, 1955. Steel closes in around you. Water presses from every direction. There is no horizon, no sky, only darkness and the constant threat of being crushed without warning. This film places you inside the suffocating world of submarine warfare, where every mission feels like a calculated suicide. British crews are tasked with disabling a heavily guarded enemy battleship. The plan is precise. The margin for error is non-existent. What follows is not explosive spectacle. It is controlled tension. Men operate in silence. Every movement is deliberate. Every sound matters. One mistake could reveal their position and end everything in seconds. The fear is not loud. It is contained, tight, suffocating. American audiences were used to war films that celebrated action. This one forces you to sit inside the pressure. You feel the weight of the ocean. You feel the anxiety of waiting for something to go wrong. And it always does. The bravery here is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is the willingness to continue despite knowing the odds, despite knowing that survival is unlikely. And that is what makes it so gripping, because this is war reduced to its most intimate form. A handful of men sealed inside metal, surrounded by darkness, carrying out a mission that may never be known or remembered. By the end, the silence becomes overwhelming, not because nothing is happening, but because everything is at risk every single second. Number 6. Albert R.N., 1953. Escape is not freedom, not here, not in this place. Inside a prisoner of war camp, survival depends on patience, on discipline, on the ability to endure humiliation without breaking. The men here are watched constantly, controlled, reduced to numbers rather than names. This film follows one of the most dangerous plans imaginable. If a British officer disguises himself as a German guard in order to move freely within the camp, it sounds bold, almost impossible, and that is because it is. Every moment becomes a test of nerve. One wrong word, one incorrect gesture, one slip in behavior could expose everything. The tension is relentless because the threat is constant. There is no safe moment, no room to relax. American audiences were struck by the psychological intensity. This is not about action or combat. It is about identity, about living inside a lie while surrounded by enemies who are trained to detect weakness. What makes it even more powerful is the restraint. The film does not rely on spectacle. It builds fear through silence, through observation, through the understanding that discovery means immediate death. And beneath it all, there is a deeper struggle. It's holding on to who you are while pretending to be someone else. By the end, you realize that escape is not just about leaving the camp. It is about surviving the transformation required to make it possible. Because sometimes the greatest risk is not being caught. It is losing yourself in the process of trying to survive. Number 5. The Colditz Story, 1955. Walls can imprison the body, but Colditz was designed to break the mind. This was not an ordinary prison. It held the most determined escape artists, the officers who refused to accept captivity, the men who saw imprisonment not as defeat, but as a challenge to overcome. Every corridor was watched, every movement tracked, every idea suspected, and yet the escapes never stopped. This film does not rely on spectacle. It thrives on tension. Plans are whispered. Tools are hidden. Every small action carries enormous risk, because failure does not mean punishment. It means isolation. It means harsher control. It means being pushed closer to the edge. American audiences expected thrilling escape sequences. Instead, they were given something colder, more methodical. The real drama lies in persistence, in the refusal to give up even when success feels impossible. What makes it powerful is the repetition, attempt after attempt, failure after failure. And still they continue, not because they believe they will succeed, but because stopping would mean surrendering something deeper than freedom. There is also a quiet understanding beneath it all. Even the guards are trapped in this system, watching, waiting, participating in a structure that consumes everyone inside it. By the end, the question shifts. It is no longer about whether they escape. It is about why they keep trying, and the answer is simple, because hope is the one thing the walls cannot contain. Number 4. Ill Met by Moonlight, 1957. The mission sounds impossible. Kidnap a German general from an occupied island, then escape across terrain controlled by the enemy. It feels like fiction, but it is not. This film unfolds with quiet precision. British operatives move through Crete with caution, every step calculated, every contact uncertain. The operation depends on timing, on trust, on the willingness to risk everything for a single objective. But what makes this story different is what happens after the success. The kidnapping is only the beginning. Now they must survive the consequences. The island becomes hostile, patrols tighten. Now civilians are put at risk. The cost of the mission begins to reveal itself. American audiences were surprised by this shift. The film does not celebrate the operation as a clean victory. It lingers on the aftermath, on the moral weight of what was done. Because war is not just about achieving objectives, it is about the ripple effects that follow, the innocent lives caught in between, the burden carried by those who made the decisions. The tension never fades, it evolves, from planning to execution to survival, each phase more dangerous than the last. And by the end, there is no simple resolution, only a lingering question. Was it worth it? That uncertainty is what makes the film endure. It refuses to offer comfort. It refuses to simplify. It shows that even the most daring victories can carry shadows that never disappear. Number 3. Play Dirty, 1969. There is no honor here, no glory, no clean version of war that can be believed. This film throws you into the desert where alliances shift and trust collapses without warning. A British unit is sent on a mission that already feels wrong. The leadership is questionable, the objective is unclear, and the men themselves are not the kind you expect to follow heroic orders. From the beginning, something feels off. Conversations carry hidden meanings. Loyalty is uncertain. Every step forward feels like a move deeper into something dangerous and irreversible. American audiences were not prepared for this level of cynicism. War films had already begun to change by the late 60s, but this one goes further. It strips away the last illusion that there is something noble at the core of every mission. The desert becomes a place of deception, not just from the enemy, but from within. Plans unravel, betrayals surface. The line between friend and enemy disappears completely. What makes it so unsettling is how inevitable everything feels. The characters are not moving toward victory, they are moving toward collapse. And they seem to know it. There are no speeches about courage, no last-minute redemption, just a slow descent into chaos where survival depends on abandoning everything you thought mattered. By the time the ending arrives, it does not shock you. It confirms what the film has been telling you all along. War does not always corrupt the weak. Sometimes it reveals that corruption was there from the beginning. Number 2. Attack on the Iron Coast, 1968. The plan is simple, too simple. That is the first warning. A British commando force is assigned to strike a heavily defended enemy port. The objective is clear: move fast, hit hard, get out. On paper it looks efficient, controlled, almost guaranteed. But war does not follow plans. From the moment the operation begins, things start to unravel. Communication breaks down, timing slips, decisions are questioned, and the men begin to realize that something is wrong at the highest level. This is not just a dangerous mission, it is a flawed one. American audiences expected a tight commando thriller. Instead, they were given a slow collapse of leadership. The tension does not come from the enemy alone. It comes from watching the plan fail piece by piece while no one can stop it. What makes the film stand out is its focus on responsibility. Orders are given, lives are risked, and when things go wrong, there is no easy way to fix it. The consequences are immediate and brutal. The soldiers on the ground are left to deal with decisions they did not make. They push forward because they have no choice, not because they believe in the mission anymore, and that is where the film becomes uncomfortable, because it forces you to confront a truth rarely shown. War is not always lost through weakness. Sometimes it is lost through bad decisions made far away from the battlefield. By the end, the question is no longer about success. It is about accountability. And the silence that follows says everything. Number 1, the sea shall not have them. 1954. The sea does not care who you are. Oh, it does not care about rank. It does not care about bravery. Once you are out there, you belong to it. This film follows a rescue mission that feels less like a military operation and more like a confrontation with nature itself. Airmen are stranded after a crash. Time is running out. The ocean is cold, relentless, unforgiving. The rescue crew knows the risk. They understand that reaching the survivors is only half the battle. Getting them back alive may be impossible, and yet they go anyway. Not because they expect success, but because leaving them behind is not an option. What makes this story so powerful is its focus on endurance, not victory, not conquest, just survival against something that cannot be fought. The sea becomes the true enemy, constant, indifferent, crushing everything in its path. All American audiences were struck by how stripped down the film feels. There are no grand speeches, no dramatic triumphs, just men facing a situation that offers no guarantees. Every moment is heavy with uncertainty. The waves rise, the weather turns, equipment fails, and still they push forward, not out of confidence, but out of duty. The tension builds slowly, quietly, until it becomes overwhelming, because you realize there is no turning point, no sudden reversal, only persistence against impossible odds. And when it ends, there is no sense of victory, only relief, exhaustion, and the understanding that survival itself can be the greatest achievement. Because sometimes war is not about defeating an enemy. It is about refusing to let others disappear without a fight. These films do not celebrate war. They expose it, the fear, the doubt, the cost that lingers long after the fighting ends. If this list changed how you see these stories, then stay with us for more hidden truths from cinema history. Because the real stories are often the hardest to watch.